Hey everybody. So I'm here in sunny Southern California at the American Conference on Physician Health, which just kicked off this afternoon. And I wanted to share with you some of my thoughts. I know everyone can't come out to conferences like this when they happen, but you may be really interested in the science that is being shared here. Dr. Lotte Dyrbe, who is one of the premier physicians in the research space around the health and well-being of physicians and medical trainees, was our keynote speaker today. And she primarily talked about how trainees are affected by burnout and the why and the how we can participate as teachers, educators, mentors in ensuring the strength of the physician workforce over the next few decades. So if you know me professionally, you know I've spent a lot of time researching the data on physician well-being. And Dr. Dyrbe brought up some things about trainees, which I've spent less time investigating because I'm not in academia. I'm in private outpatient medicine and an independent group. And so we do have some trainees, but that's not part of my job. And so this was really interesting to me. She said that, yes, we know that there are differences in burnout for medical students and residents for certain demographics. We know that women and ethnic minorities, residents with disabilities have greater burnout rates than the general population of residents and trainees. But what's really interesting is that those differences, while they are very real, they disappear when you control for their environment during training. The well-being of our medical students and residents has a lot to do with their educational environment. We know that mistreatment of medical students and residents by faculty is one of the main causes of burnout. And she spent some time talking through the things that academic physicians can do and departments and the dean's office can do to help ensure the well-being of those trainees so that, again, we can have a secure physician workforce going forward to take care of us when we need physicians. So that was very interesting to me. And that particular statistic or set of statistics made me think about the impact of self-valuation on burnout in physicians in general. If you've heard me talk at any of the conferences I've spoken at in the past couple of years, you've heard me talk about this. So we know that there are demographic differences in physicians, so not necessarily trainees, but practicing physicians, and our rates of burnout based on gender, ethnicity, practice environment, those sorts of things. And we know that we have higher rates across the board for all of us of burnout when you compare that to the general population. But when you control for a variable called self-valuation, those differences disappear, regardless of that demographic breakdown. And self-valuation are those behaviors and thoughts that we have about ourselves, about the importance of our own needs, our behaviors in taking care of ourselves, the likelihood that we are to ignore our own needs in the face of someone else's. And those scores for physicians are a lot lower than the general public. And when you control for that difference, it takes away those demographic differences in the occurrence of burnout in physicians. So one of my big questions, one of the quests that I've been on over the past few years is to figure out how we can affect self-valuation for physicians. That seems to be something that's a lot harder to address than workplace efficiencies, EMR interface, those sorts of things that we know very practically can make a difference in the experience of the physician and reduce burnout. But we get to a floor, it looks like around 30% burnout, where you really can't get below that until you really start to work on those self-valuation behaviors. And because medical culture, the training culture for all of us, has taught us certain mindsets and behaviors that run counter to the concepts of self-valuation and self-care. Those are really hard to address. One of the things that I and many other people believe can help with this is coaching in combination with other things like therapy, and treatment for mental health issues like depression and anxiety. But coaching is one of these interventions that has really begun to come to light in the research over the past couple of years. And this is a big theme so far in this conference. In the poster session, there were several posters on coaching programs, one on a group coaching program, others on one-on-one coaching programs that are showing benefit in changing self-valuation and these other metrics. So this is really exciting to me. It's one of the reasons that I'm in a coach certification program right now, because the skills of coaching are to help physicians to see things that they can change, that maybe they didn't think were changeable, to help them to develop their own solutions, to feel power where they may have felt powerless before, and to have an empathetic ear. So these are some themes so far. One of the other posters that I saw that was really interesting was a professional development retreat for women in medicine and science. That sounds fun. Small group sessions on professional identity and fulfillment for medical students, which is just a short session that they did as part of their collaborative learning groups with medical students, where they talked about work-life balance and professional identity development. This makes me remember a comment that Dr. Dyrbe mentioned in her talk about how absolutely necessary it is to have an equally fulfilling identity outside of work. And that is something we don't often talk about as physicians. We think that our whole identities should be our work, and it is incredibly dangerous for our well-being and that of others. Dr. Dyrbe also mentioned something, a resource I didn't know about. The Kern Center at Mayo Clinic has a bunch of videos on YouTube that are short form, highly practical bites of information. And she brought this up because she was talking about ways to get information out to physicians, to teach them concepts, updates on things to improve their lives in their practices, but making it in a way that they can actually digest it. It needs to be small or short and high yield. So PDFs, short videos, but these videos she mentioned from Mayo Clinic are on YouTube, and she suggested using these and sending them out to your physicians, or considering making your own versions of these and coming up with your own topics. But this is something I'm going to investigate maybe to do for my physician group. There were several posters on small physician groups having meals together, patterned after those original papers from Mayo Clinic on the Compass groups. We've done that at Hattiesburg Clinic in a few different iterations and forms, and they've been really well received, and we continue to plan to do more of those over time. That is something that is very easy to implement. You don't have to do a lot of work. If you want some questions or resources for doing those, let me know. I'm happy to give you that information. Let me know what you think about this, and have a good evening.